Hi, I'm a possum and I find garbage. Today's garbage is Demon Hole, a movie called Demon Hole, which I found at the Demon Hole, also known as Dollar Tree. This movie was directed by some guy named Josh Cook. I tried to look up what else this guy inflicted upon the world, and apparently, he also directed some made-for-TV movie called Black Dawn in 2011. But I think the IMDb page is confusing it with one of those direct-to-Walmart $5 bin Steven Seagal movies, also called Black Dawn from 2005. Nevertheless, the description is amazing. Steven Seagal still remains the one and only headless chicken in this suicidal mobster film, after CIA agent Jeron Seagal is shot in the crotch with a BB gun by a child. He is out for blood, determined to get his revenge. After finding the child and gets to know him, he learns that not all kids are bad, even though he guts the kid anyways. I wish I was watching that movie. The main antagonist in this movie, a demon named Moloch, is played by some guy who goes by the name Sam Hain. Not Sam Hain, but Sam Hain, like the Celtic festival. This movie is his only acting credit on IMDb. I thought maybe he was a musician or something, but a Google search only turns up some unrelated rock band from the 80s that was fronted by Glenn Danzig, the guy who wrote and directed Veronica.
Your teacher, they're looking at me!
Don't look.
So I have no idea who this guy is. For all I know, they just credited him as Sam Hain because he was embarrassed and wanted to be anonymous. Kind of like the singing on Pink Flamingos. Speaking of embarrassment, I once pissed my pants in high school. Yeah, I was laughing at this kid who shit himself. What a loser. What?
Possum, it's me, the demon.
F off. The movie starts with a quote in white text over a black screen, so you know this movie is serious. So you better take it seriously. I'm gonna take it about as seriously as the media took the allegations against New York Governor Andrew Cuomo before it was no longer politically expedient. We then see some kind of drilling rig digging into the ground full of skulls. Some lady with facial piercings, which probably wouldn't be allowed for someone with her job for safety reasons, hears something and wanders off into the woods alone and finds a cave, and just decides to go in it, because that's what smart people do. You know, Niels Bohr met Werner Heisenberg in a cave, and then they came up with the Copenhagen interpretation by banging rocks together. It took them a while. So this lady goes into the cave, just wanders past some bones, and then starts crawling through a little space for no reason until she hears some whispering. And then she just keeps going deeper. You know, Einstein once went into a cave and just kept going deeper, and that's how he invented gravity. And maybe that was Louis Pasteur. I don't know, it's been a while since I dropped out of school. So this idiot just keeps going deeper until a monster pops up behind her and drags her away. And then we see this movie's stupid title. We then cut to some lady wandering around the neighborhood at night. And we hear this radio broadcast talking about how the state of Ohio has opened up more state land to fracking.
We know firsthand the devastation that working the land this way can do.
So this lady enters a house and starts eating chips out of a bag that was just left sitting open on the counter, so they're probably all stale now. And she sneaks past some girls sleeping on the couch, but doesn't wash the chip grease off her hands first, because she's a disgusting slob. Scary music starts playing and she makes her way upstairs for some reason. And she walks through the Dutch angle, past another sleeping kid, and goes into the attic. Meanwhile, some guy comes into the house and starts loudly stomping up the stairs with his dog. But this idiot doesn't hear him coming, so she just continues to dig around in this backpack by candlelight. I guess because she doesn't own a flashlight. But then she hears the guy come into the attic, so she blows the candle out and hides. And the guy starts slowly reaching around the corner in a way that no one ever would do. Then the lady pulls out her lighter and it turns out these two know each other. So I don't really understand what's happening here, but I think this lady has been stashing drugs in a stranger's house, okay? And this guy just followed her in. He tells her to come home and tries to grab her, but she punches him and leaves. The lady then spends forever sneaking around the train yard. Her name's Luce, by the way. Not Lucy, not Lois, but Luce. I ain't never met a bitch named Luce, but I guess that's her name. Anyway, she enters the train car and finds her friend Jimmy dead with a needle in his arm. Oh, never mind. I guess he was just sleeping with his eyes open. Luce tells Jimmy she needs a place to stay, and we abruptly cut to some guy in the woods calling for somebody named Bobby, who's the stupid woman we saw go into the cave earlier. Sometime later, we see Luce hitchhiking, but then we cut to a bunch of people being loaded onto a prison bus for community service, and we're introduced to our colorful cast of characters who we can safely assume only exist to get killed. There's nerdy guy, rich girl, black guy, cop guy, the younger cop guy named Kyle, and this other girl who I'm gonna call Lumpy Space Princess because that's who she talks like.
Is it going to be a park or something?
We should tell ghost stories or something. Sometimes it really sucks being able to read minds.
Luce shows up, gets patted down, and then they all drive off into the woods to do whatever it is the court is making them do. While on the bus, we see Luce pull out a razor blade that she had hidden in her mouth somehow. They blatantly checked Black Guy's mouth, but not hers. What is this, some kind of social commentary?
So you're telling me I have to do community service because I'm black?
And she doesn't even do anything with the razor. She took it out just to show the audience she has it. Nerdy guy makes little figures out of the tin foil his sandwich was wrapped in and starts playing with them like a 5-year-old. Then Luce falls asleep. We cut to some footage of some guy with sharp teeth doing nothing, and it's so dark that we can barely see him, and we cut back to the bus stopping in the woods. We're now about 18 minutes into the movie, by the way. If it seems like I'm skipping over a lot, that's because large chunks of this movie's runtime are taken up by people just silently walking around, because bad filmmakers seem to think making everything slow will somehow automatically build tension, even when we don't know what we're supposed to be anticipating. Anyway, cop guy tells them that they're tasked with clearing a path through the woods because this land was just taken by the state from the local Native American reserve or something.
And remember, this is ancient, sacred Indian land. So don't f around.
He goes on to explain that Kyle's dad bought the mineral rights, so he's gonna start fracking here. Luce points out that he also owns the correctional facility, so he's essentially using their community service as free labor. You know, Ohio still uses prison labor, so I don't know why that Kyle's dad is getting a bunch of dumb kids to do his work for him, other than because the plot demanded it. It's a real mark of quality when things happen in a movie for no reason other than the movie needs them to happen. While they walk through the woods, Kyle says he recognizes Luce as the prom photographer, but she doesn't say anything, and this is also totally unimportant. The group stops at a random spot in the woods, and Nerdy Guy pulls out a and explains he has a prescription because he has glaucoma. And then we get the obligatory, "we have no cell phone service out here" scene, just to set up that they won't be able to call for help when scary things start to happen.
How did you smuggle that?
Let's just say, if he was gonna find it, I'd make him take me to dinner and a movie first.
They all start making their way back to the bus, even though they haven't done any work. But that's Gen Z for you. They pass by some skulls poorly photoshopped on the ground, and then they realize the bus isn't where they thought it was. So they continue walking, ditch their tools, and ask Kyle what they should do. But Kyle says he's not a real cop, and he just works for his dad to pad his resume. They all start arguing about piss drinking.
This is why you don't have any friends, Gary. You don't know when to shut your mouth.
Fine, do what you want. But when you guys are dying of thirst, don't think I'm gonna share mine.
Then Luce thinks she hears something, so they all decide to keep moving. Lumpy Space Princess trips over a wire attached to a bell, and then they see a cabin, so they decide to just bust in. Black Guy finds a big bag of and Luce realizes they're in somebody's drug den. But they all decide to just hang out even though, for all they know, some particularly dangerous people might show up at any minute. Then they all start talking about what they did to get community service, and Luce says she stole her foster dad's car after he tried to touch her in a less than platonic way. Then she leaves. Kyle follows her outside and calls for her, but she just keeps going, and then we get to watch her just silently walk around the woods for 2 minutes. You know, whenever one of the many bad horror movies I've seen does this, it just makes me think about all the other much more constructive ways I could be spending my time. I could be lifting weights, writing a novel, solving cold fusion, or even stacking M&Ms. We eventually cut back to the cabin and see Lumpy Space Princess go outside to make herself puke, and she sees a tree with Kyle plus Tiff carved into it. I guess her name's Tiff, because Kyle walks up and she thinks he has a crush on her now.
We are so going to later.
I didn't do that.
So I guess that carving just magically appeared on the tree. And that means supernatural shenanigans are starting now. It's pretty spooky, right? It's like seeing a closed Waffle House. We cut back to Luce in the woods. She finds the cave, and a bunch of pointy sticks poking up from the ground, and decides not to sit on them. She then goes into the cave, pulls out the razor blade, which I guess she just kept in her mouth until now, even though she's had plenty of opportunity to move it to any one of her pockets this whole time. And I guess her plan is to just stand there holding it. We see a naked guy scurry into the shadows, and Luce leaves. F off.
Yeah, Possum!
I do have a door, you know.
Huh? Oh, how inconsiderate of me. I'm so sorry. Your patrons will pay for it though, right?
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
J.R. Coffee Puffs, Alex Bones, Echo Black, National Johnson, Dave Possum, Lucas Success, Black Man, 95, Bobo, Bone, Guy Charlie, Chocolate Lady, Chris Brackers, Wall, Homer Lee, Corey Zilligan, Dave Trash, Demon 98, Diesel Weasel, Tick Mars Man, Doomsday Machine, Eduardo Sanchez, Freckles Ryan, Frank the Ginger Degenerate, General Flame, Abraham Pena, Ivan Severe, Ivan Stansbury, J.R. Pop Tops, Jane Guevara, Jen 2, Jimmy Jam, Joe Burr, John Cleveland, John Tucker, Joseph Reagan, Josh Liber, Kaiser Willem II, Lawrence A. Will Sr., Miss Whitty Quebec, Levi Chucks, Liam Sig, Will Durante, Liv Dick, Marco McMire, Mario Mendez, Masonic Rat, Nick Squizzy, Noel T33, Nolan, Joseph James Floyd, Patton Parsons, Constable P. Bone, Paco, Pulse Jack Estrada, Ricky Bruga, Salto, Sir Steve Von Uber 17, Spencer M, Swiss Pass, Sir Fox, Therese, The Beekeeper, The Ghost of Macaulay Culkin, The Silver Socialist, Thomas Brown, Thomas Manpett, Tony Belmonte, Toxic Masculinity, Twilight City Studios YouTube channel, Vibria, Walker Facey, X Sturping, X Grunt X, Zenith, Mitchell Alexandrovich Gotar.
Will pay for it, but my Patreon money usually goes toward my insulin.
Well, I guess you're gonna die then. Ha 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 ha!
Go to hell.
F you.
F you.
F you.
F you.
F you.
F me.
F me.
F me.
F me a million times. F me hard and F me forever.
Okay then, F you.
Wait, what? Ah, sh**.
F him. Alright, so, back in the cabin, everyone sits around smoking while they listen to the record player, because I guess this abandoned cabin in the middle of the woods has electricity. Kyle says he hears something, so he looks outside, but it's just Luce coming back. Luce says she found a booby trap in the cave. They're referring to the pointy sticks, but they don't believe her. Then everyone starts dancing except for Luce and Kyle. Sometime later, everyone is just hanging out, and they get the idea to start telling ghost stories. And then a rich girl starts talking like a robot.
I am Moloch. I have all knowledge.
The others laugh, but then she starts acting like she doesn't remember what just happened. Whenever I wake up to everyone laughing, it's because somebody drew a penis on my face. Lou starts telling the real scary stories are the true ones about people abusing their kids. And Lumpy Space Princess starts making fun of Luce for getting touched by her foster dad. But she apparently knows details about the story Luce never told anyone. So Lumpy Space Princess starts to believe she can read Luce's mind.
If you can read my mind, what number am I thinking right now?
247.
Realizing she has mind-reading powers, Lumpy Space Princess starts mind-reading Kyle, gets offended, and leaves. Then Black Guy starts to disappear, which seems kind of redundant. I mean, he's already a black man entangled in the criminal justice system. How's that for social commentary, movie? Kyle tries to tell Lumpy Space Princess he likes her, but she knows he's lying, so he goes back into the living room and sees Black Guy fade in, and everyone realizes they have superpowers now. Nerdy Guy's superpower is literally that he's not nerdy anymore.
Doug has invisibility.
And as for me, I'm not a nerd anymore, Kyle.
And since this is a movie, that just means he doesn't have to wear glasses anymore. And even though they're all scared,
Don't act like you're not scared. You're just as scared as the rest of us.
they all decide to go sleep here and wait until morning to leave. Later that night, Luce sneaks out and Kyle follows her. Lumpy Space Princess pretends to be asleep, but watches him leave. Black Guy sees the eye in the back of Rich Girl's head, but then just acts like he didn't see it as she starts to come on to him. Lumpy Space Princess hears Nerdy Guy on the record player and goes to make out with him, and then we cut back to Luce and Kyle kissing outside. Back inside, Black Guy starts freaking out when Rich Girl starts making demon noises. Yeah, remember when she said she was Moloch? I guess she was really possessed. So Black Guy rushes outside.
I just made out with Luce. Hey, bro, I just had sex with a demon. I'm gonna go walk it off.
So I guess Black Guy is just gonna run off into the woods, alone, at night. right after his encounter with a demon, like the genius that he is. You know, Thomas Edison was wandered off into the woods at night, and that's how he discovered fire. Yeah, this is one of those movies where every character is an idiot, and they'll take any excuse they can to split up for no reason, other than because the plot needs them to, no matter how stupid of an idea it is. And the only reason movies do this is just so the characters get killed one by one. The problem is, this makes it so that all the characters are too stupid to be sympathetic, so when they die, we don't care, and thus there are no stakes as far as the audience is concerned. And I ain't talking about the kind of stakes Movie Bob wipes his face with. Back inside, Luce lays on the couch as somebody starts crawling toward her under the blanket, and then Kyle starts strangling her while staring at her with glowing eyes. But then Kyle comes running into the woods, so I guess it was just a dream or a vision or something. You know, one of those stupid fake-out scares bad horror movies do, that never amount to anything. Luce tells Kyle she thinks the house is haunted, as if that wasn't already obvious, and then we cut to Black Guy in the woods. Black Guy falls into a hole and gets impaled on pointy sticks, and the guy we saw looking for Bobby earlier finds him. Yeah, the movie actually evoked the Black Guy dies first trope. Social commentary. Then everyone decides to go looking for Black Guy, and Rich Girl decides to randomly show Lumpy Space Princess a photo she took of her on her phone.
Wow, great. I look fine.
But then they notice the creepypasta face behind her. So they continue walking until they find the fracking thing, but then they find all the workers are dead. Lumpy Space Princess starts puking up blood, and then Rich Girl says she wants to go into the building thing to find a phone so they can call for help, I guess. And of course, she goes into the place surrounded by corpses, alone. Like a smart person would do. You know, Stephen Hawking once went into a building surrounded by freshly murdered corpses. That's how he invented the wheel. Then the guy who's been wandering around the woods pops out and decapitates her, and I guess Lumpy Space Princess senses it with her new psychic powers and starts screaming. So then everyone decides to go find her in the building, but then the guy comes running out and charges at Lumpy Space Princess, but then Kyle knocks him out. They tie Crazy Guy to a tree, and then Luce sees the Kyle plus Tiff thing carved into the tree, and then they realize the cab had disappeared. Then Crazy Guy wakes up and says he's been walking around the woods, but he doesn't know for how long because the demon messes with your sense of time and makes you see things. We get a flashback to Crazy Guy talking to some woman about how they were digging and discovered a 7-mile deep shaft which they lowered a microphone into and heard screaming.
That's the live feed off the mic.
Crazy Guy then goes on to explain that none of them really have powers. They're all just illusions to trick people to go to the titular demon hole, which was dug by the local Native American tribe over thousands of years before they realized they dug all the way to hell and sealed it off with a magic stone or something. But then this fracking company opened it. Now if anyone goes into the hole, the demon Moloch will take control of their body and use it to enter the mortal world, which I guess would be bad. And since you can't know who's possessed, Crazy Guy has just been going around killing everyone just to make sure Moloch doesn't escape, which is why there's dead bodies everywhere. But wait, didn't Moloch possess Rich Girl earlier when he made her speak?
I am Moloch.
But now you're telling me he needs somebody to go into the demon hole so he can possess them? Was that an illusion? Is Rich Girl's superpower that she's possessed? Like, what are the rules here? They established that Moloch has illusion powers, which are really just the excuse for the movie to have a bunch of weird, nonsensical happen. Have you ever seen A Nightmare on Elm Street? You know how Freddy Krueger could take on any form and do practically anything, so the filmmakers have an allowance to do whatever they want? But that only applies to dreams, because that's Freddy's thing. He invades dreams where literally anything can happen, and he kills people in their dreams. So as long as you don't fall asleep and you remain in the reality, Freddy can't hurt you because all of his powers are dream-based. But in Demon Hole, it's just Moloch has illusion powers or whatever, and the filmmakers just do whatever, with no real rhyme or reason. And they don't even do anything particularly interesting with this concept. Moloch makes people get lost in the woods, carves names in the trees, and makes people think they have superpowers. Do some Wishmaster shit or something, come on. So the flashback continues to show a crazy guy going into a cave to look for Bobby. But when he finds her, she has fangs, so he just kills her. Oh, so you can tell who's possessed, because the possessed people have fangs. So I guess crazy guy just killed everyone for no reason. This f***ing movie. Crazy guy then tells the kids they need to go back to the fracking site to get a box of explosives they can use to seal the demon hole. I exploded in a demon hole once, then I had to move to another state and change my name so I could keep my money. So Luce and Kyle run off to go find the explosives, and Nerdy Guy says he's gonna go help and tells Lumpy Space Princess to stay there, because running off into the woods alone has thus far proven to be a good idea. Lumpy Space Princess then asks Crazy Guy why Moloch needs a human host. He asks her why she's so curious, and then she says she wants power.
He's going to take your soul.
Can't have everything.
Then we see Luce and Kyle go into the fracking site. How far was this site from the cabin? They walked for quite a while to get there before, but now just back there again, and it seems like no time has passed. And this is where they found the Crazy Guy, right? So did they just drag him all the way back to where the cabin was just to tie him up? Why would they go that far? Is this place just right next to that spot? Why didn't they see it earlier? And why it take so long for them to find it before? Why'd the goblin turn on the stove? Kyle looks at a graphic on a computer, Luce grabs the box of explosives, and then they hear a noise outside. Now, here's the thing about the sound design of this movie. There's near constant spooky ambient noise. And characters seem to either ignore it or acknowledge it at completely random times.
Hey guys, did you hear that?
So I don't know what sounds are meant to be diegetic or just part of the background music. So whenever they do acknowledge it, it's just really jarring and it makes me wonder if I'm not paying close enough attention. So the movie is basically gaslighting me.
Did you hear that?
Anyway, Kyle goes outside, but then the door slams shut, trapping Luce inside. Luce sees Moloch crawling around, but he doesn't do anything, so she just kinda leaves, okay? Back in the woods, Lumpy Space Princess picks up some rocks, planning to kill Crazy Guy with them, and he dares her to do it.
Ah! Oh, you weak bitch! Do it again the right way, bitch!
Yeah, hit him again.
Do it again! Ah!
Lumpy Space Princess just kinda gives up and walks away, and then we cut to Luce and Kyle. Kyle says he saw on the computer screen that there's billions of dollars worth of natural gas in the ground there, and tries to convince Luce not to blow up the hole, but she ain't having it. Then we cut back to Crazy Guy. Moloch shows up behind him, and we get a first real good look at him. And I have to say, as far as movie monsters go, he's pretty lame. He's just a guy in body paint with some lumpy on his head. I mean, Doom Annihilation had a better demon, and that's a low bar. So the demon's name is Moloch, right? That's a reference to the biblical figure Moloch, who was a Canaanite deity who people sacrificed children to. The movie even starts with a quote about Moloch from Leviticus, so I guess this is supposed to be him. But that just raises the question of why Moloch, a Middle Eastern mythological figure, is doing in a Native American burial ground, and what exactly a guy who crawls around like an animal and makes people see illusions has to do with a bull-headed deity who demands child sacrifice by fire. They just thought the name sounded cool, but did nothing with the character. He's like the lamest demon ever. He reminds me of Skeleton Man.
What are you?
Anyway, I guess they untie Crazy Guy, and then we cut to Lumpy Space Princess going into the cave. And then we cut to Crazy Guy running through the woods, and then we cut to Nerdy Guy wandering around the woods without a light, and then we cut back to Lumpy Space Princess crawling through the cave. Then we see Moloch sneaking up on Nerdy Guy, and then he takes the form of Bobby and seduces him, but then Crazy Guy shows up.
Stop. Don't you touch those titties.
Yeah, dumbass. Don't go touching no titties.
Don't you touch those titties.
Titties ain't for touching.
Don't you touch those titties.
Nikola Tesla once touched titties, and then he got hit by a cab. Don't be like Nikola Tesla. Don't you touch those titties.
Don't you touch those titties.
I found this movie at Dollar Tree. The nerdy guy threatens crazy guy with a stick, but crazy guy convinces him to put the stick down, and then he grabs nerdy guy and breaks his neck. Maybe he should have touched those titties.
Touch those titties.
Then Moloch disappears. Back in the cave, Lumpy Space Princess finds what I guess is the demon hole and jumps in. Then crazy guy shows up at the cave and starts yelling at Moloch to come out and fight him, but he sets off a tripwire and gets impaled through the head. Then Luce and Kyle arrive at the cave with the box of explosives. Luce gives Kyle the detonator for some reason, then throws the box into the demon hole. But then Kyle says he can't do it because there's too much money at stake. Luce tells Kyle to give her the detonator, he refuses. Then Lumpy Space Princess comes up to them, crawling on the ceiling, and pounces on Luce. But then Luce uses her tongue to make the razor blade stick out of her mouth. Yeah, she still kept it in her mouth this whole time. And uses it to slash Lumpy Space Princess's throat. Just then, Moloch comes running in and drags Kyle away. I guess he used the detonator while he was being dragged off, because the cave starts blowing up as Luce escapes. The next morning, Luce wakes up in the middle of the woods, walks around for a while, then she finds some emergency vehicles. She runs up and meets Kyle's dad and tells him everyone's dead. They strap her to a hospital thing and put her in the ambulance. Then Kyle's dad tells the cops he's bringing in another crew to finish the job. But then it turns out Kyle is still alive, but not really. Luce screams as the ambulance drives off, then the movie ends, and the titties remain untouched.
Don't you touch those titties.
What?
F you.
You!
F you.
You!
F you.
You! Thanks for watching my video. It's over now, so you gotta like and subscribe and leave a comment for the algorithm. And support me on Patreon too while you're at it. Bye.